Hey everyone, this is George Soto and you're watching Startups Unedited.
Watching Startups Unedited. Today I'm joined by Rune Theill, who's the co-founder and CEO at Rockstart, which is an Amsterdam-based startup accelerator. Rune, how are you? How's everything?
Yeah, hey George, thanks a lot for inviting me for this. I'm pretty good here in Amsterdam, thank you. What about you?
I'm doing fantastic. I really can't complain. I just got back from New York. We were filming a couple episodes in Silicon Alley, which is what they call that area there. So I'm super excited. And again, thanks so much. Why don't you take a quick second to kind of tell the audience a little bit about your background? How did you actually get involved with startups? You've done, when we were just talking about this, some amazing stuff for the Amsterdam startup ecosystem. I mean, just really excited. So if you could just tell the audience a little bit about your background, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I'll do my best here. So I'm not Dutch myself. I moved here to Amsterdam 4.5 years ago to set up Rockstart along with 3 other Dutch guys. But I think like what really boils down to all the stuff that I've done have been around startups, like from really young age, setting up, trialing and failing, setting up my own startups, finally getting to something that would work. And then from there, really wanted to get more involved in, supporting startups, which then I did first in Copenhagen, Startup Weekend and a bunch of other, community focused events. And then at one point, really wanted to find a way to make something more scalable around supporting startups. And that's where Rockstart came in. And I luckily met, 3 other guys who had the same desire, the same energy and mindset around what we need to have in Europe to support startups in growing in this ecosystem. So that's kind of led me to Amsterdam. And for the last, 4.5 years, been building Rockstart along with these other guys.
I love that. And you mentioned your journey being this trial and error kind of experience, which I think is great. And I think that's something that a lot of folks don't really get, that this is a journey and that we are, really going through this experimental sort of, experience, right? So, what would you say around that? Like, what's that experience like? What's the ups and downs of the startup experience, the startup founder? And I think a lot of the time people associate, of course, startup, that whole term with tech startup. But I mean, you could be, putting together a fruit stand, right, at the side of the road and still be going through these ups and downs.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, that's what I did, right? I didn't jump directly on building a tech startup. I came with ideas that I wanted to execute. And I think the difference between the way I did it and maybe other people did it, I would not always strategize that much around it. I would learn by doing, by just jumping into it and start building stuff. And that way you get results extremely fast and you start iterating much faster. So I think even that piece, that mindset, if you can bring that onto other founders who often, in my opinion, take way too long time on strategizing and thinking how the world might work when that perfect product is in the market. That's, in my opinion, not the way to go, right? And I guess with Lean Startup, the whole movement around it, we kind of found a model that can explain us why we should be doing it faster, why we should be going out there faster, and why we should not give a shit about what anyone thinks, but just doing it because we believe this is the way to, to make something work. And I think that's the thing that maybe in Silicon Valley, the US should have a lot more of that entrepreneurial mindset, where interestingly enough, in Europe, it's actually not that normal to think like that.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think that's how you discover what the actual business is that you should be focused on, right? If you're an entrepreneur who's trying to, let's say, figure out a business that, let's just say I'll make up a SaaS tool or some sort of like, let's say for everyone out there, SaaS, software as a service, some tool for, brand marketers, right? To create new tweets, let's say for Twitter, like you don't really necessarily understand how they're going to use it or how they want to buy it or, what the exact strategy is until you go out there, in my opinion, experiment with it, throw it against the wall, see what they like, see what they don't like. And I think what you're saying here is if you don't just go ahead and execute and learn what works and what doesn't work by actually trying it out, you're never going to get there. And you might just actually over rotate or focus too long on strategy, not execution. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think some of the most frustrating conversations I have day to day even is meeting people at events that are playing around with, the same idea on the 7 years without actually doing anything with it. Like, this is really where you want to, help them, push them out of their comfort zone and start doing it. And this is where the real magic happens, right? When you actually start doing it, you realize so many things. But to take that step is all the uncertainty and insecurities of what might happen plays into that. And this is where a system like we're trying to build with Rockstart, right? It really trying to support that and elevate the entrepreneur and give them, the network and the knowledge around them to be able to do this better.
Absolutely. That support system, that community, which folks really, as we've been doing this, show the last year or so, and we've filmed a documentary on startup culture in Silicon Valley specifically, but we're going to actually break out and expand to other markets. We really, really realize that the community piece, right? Like the support system is incredibly important. So, that sounds amazing what you guys are up to. What are some tips, let's say 1 or 2 tips that you would give a, B2C or B2B founder, irrespective of what kind of business you're focused on building in Europe, that's trying to actually bring the product to market? What are those 1 or 2 tips that you would give that individual?
Yeah, so when we're talking about it from a European perspective, right, there's a big difference between Europe and the US in the market size. So Europe as a full market is like 360 million. The US is approximately the same size, but the difference is that divided into like 29 different countries in Europe. So we're talking about different languages, different tax rules, regulation, culture, etc. So whatever market you approach in Europe, you should be clear on the strategy that you're going for with that market. And I would say if you're building a B2C product, there are really markets in Europe that are just not big enough. You're not going to make it in that market if you have that as the core goal. And even starting there might not make that much sense. So I'm from Denmark myself, right? That's like 5 million people. With most B2C companies, you're just not going to have a chance of making it. So maybe even from the beginning, you should be thinking a little bit beyond that. You should be thinking, are we even going to focus on Germany or a different country where, maybe similar traits apply, but it's really, if you start there, you're going to gain significantly more traction.
Interesting.
That's from a B2C perspective. I think B2B, again, these different countries are also different markets. So I would always suggest for the startup, whatever market they're starting in, that they should try to nail the first market before they move to the next, sort of become a market leader. I think it's a huge challenge to scale beyond your whole market, which is really where you start. So you have to be cautious around that. And many startups have this idea they need to go to like 17 different markets within Europe within the first 2 years, which in most cases is not really the most beneficial way of scaling.
So really just focusing on your initial market, selecting a segment of the larger European market that maybe sort of is similar to each other. So in this case, maybe one country that's similar to your host country, and then being able to focus on being the market leader within that market segment, and then expanding later on.
Yeah, that can be a way, right? But still being cautious about the dynamics between those different markets, because it's actually, although Germany and the Netherlands are really close, the trades are quite different, the culture is quite different, the languages are different, right? So trying to find markets that are attractive enough as a starting point, or a segment that is attractive enough as a starting point that you can go for.
Got it. Rune, thank you so much for joining us today. If folks want to follow you on social media, what's the best handle to reach you at?
Yeah, so I guess my Twitter handle, Rune Theill, is the best way to go, or AngelList, same. Thank you.
Perfect.
Oh,
Well,
thanks for this
awesome.
opportunity.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Have a wonderful day. And I hope to see you in Amsterdam later this year.
Likewise, please come by.
Absolutely. Well, have a great day. And thank you so much for what you're doing for the global startup community.
And you too, huh? Have a great day.
Have a
Thanks a
great
lot.
day. Thank you.